Hello, everyone. My name is Anatoly. I currently live in Somaliland, and this is part 3 of my first ever YouTube video attempt. This is trilogy. I talk about Berbera, where I live. In the first two, I showed some photos and made some discussions about Berbera in general. And then I talked to Berbera people and my trip to Hot Spring and some other things. And this time I will talk about my favorite place in here, one of the big reasons why I may partially retire in Berbera is Berbera Beach. And also it's a related topic, Berbera animals. And then I conclude with some conclusions and conclusions for the whole series. Okay, this is part 3. I already mentioned in the first two parts who I am and why I'm doing that. Okay, one of the reasons I'm doing that is because I'm a professional lecturer. I was lecturing for the last 45 years continuously. Now I'm not lecturing and I need to lecture. So this is a lecture. So let's go. Okay, I'm not talking politics, at least not yet. Unless there will be discussions, no history, not yet. I try to keep my emotions down. I just give my impressions. You can consider me as British, okay, from Russian origin. So that was number 3, as I already said. The main information, general information about Berbera was in part 1. There was some information about Berbera continuing, Berbera information part 3. This is about beach and animals. Okay, Berbera Beach. Berbera Beach, unlike some YouTubers, whom I very very much. They talk about Berbera Beach in negative sense. I think this is one of the best, okay, at least best I've seen. Relative to some Asian beaches, or I don't know, this one. I've been to Caribbean, I've been to many places, many beaches. Okay, I'm not saying this is much better than Voladero, because it's different. Anyway, you will see pictures. So a reminder what Berbera is. This is my picture from first slide. This is Berbera. Berbera Beach is something around Berbera. The left side towards Djibouti is a little bit rocky, less beachy. And this is all beach. This is all beach. This is a start of territory which is disputed, which is at war. They can't get in there because there's basically war here. With neighbors, with Puntland, I already talked about that. And, okay, we know that the main enemy are people who live on the other side of the river. So this is kind of river, and the main enemy of Somaliland is Puntland. Okay. Long story. That's completely different discussion. Anyway, so this is all Berbera Beach. It all looks like this. This is one from one particular point. I will show you the point which I made to the east and to the west. One of them is eastern side, another one is western side. It's all pristine, clean, all beautiful, all sandy, all reasonably flat. So you get 2-meter height, about 30 meters or something, or 25 meters. So that's a beach. That's Berbera. That's again for Google Maps. That was that map of Berbera, which I showed in the first one. And I didn't talk about beach. Beach is all here. This beach going to the left. So there is not basically nothing there. There are several buildings from time to time. The main one is this salt tuna factory, which was doing tuna. For some periods of time, they were doing tuna in Berbera with made in Thailand because it was built by Taiwanese, this factory, for some reason. So that's a river which only becomes river in rainy times. The rainy times are what, between end of May, June, July, and then December. Not December, no, November, I think, finishes. So, but there is not much rain in Berbera. It's more rain is Burho and in the mountains, which I mentioned before. So that's Berbera Beach. It all looks exactly like what on that picture. Interesting thing is tides. So that's tide table for Berbera. Okay, I start with a tide table which I know quite well. This is a tide table for Cardiff, where I was sailing quite a lot. And I was with my sailing teams for several years. It's high, okay, it's 12 meters here, okay, there is no scale here, but it's regular. It's kind of modulated science. It's not science, of course. In textbooks, they talk about sciences all the time, but it's not sciences, of course. But it's something very similar looking. And it's not twice a day. I mean, the high tide, but it's slightly less than twice a day. But it depends on lunar cycles. But it's completely different in Berbera. I mean, so there's nothing like normal tidal cycle. So the reason being is there is Red Sea, and when the tidal wave goes to Red Sea, it comes back and it interferes with another tide or with another lunar tide, and then it gives some very strange. So for normal person, it's very difficult to forecast. Okay, tidal tables here. In Cardiff, it's very easy to forecast without any tables, but in here, it's very difficult. I should be able to recover. If I have a data, I can recover all the cycles. I wonder what formulas they use, because I'm specialist actually in time series. One of my topics is time series forecasting, stuff like that. I should be able to recover all the cycles very easy if I get data. Or maybe at some point I will do that. Okay, that's already been in this picture. Yeah, behind me is Somaliland flag, as usual. Forgot to say this time. So that's a beach everywhere in that area. It's obviously low tide. You can see signs of low tide, but if it is high tide, it's closer to the beach, but it's still, I don't know, 100 meters, somehow 50 meters on the sand before some plants come in or building something. Okay, that's a closer look. This is crabs doing that. There are lots of crabs. 15 years ago, when I was in Somaliland in the same beach, it was millions of crabs. Now the crabs gone somewhere. There are crabs, but not millions. You need to look for them because it was completely wild. Now it's not as wild, but it's still wild, wild enough to enjoy. Very wild. If you go a little bit further away from Berbera, and you see crabs and lots of other animals. So that's another picture with different coloring. You see lots of, this is dead I don't know, it's probably bowfish or something like that. Lots of things which sea brings to shore. If you walk on a deserted beach, which is almost all deserted, yes, okay, that's crab. Sometimes if you walk on the beach, you see camels. Um, it's actually camels looked after by these people, which I show pictures of them, not very nice living conditions in the previous part. Lots of birds like that. I forgot how they called, some strange names. We don't have that in Europe. Lots of birds like this, especially in the morning. This now I start morning pictures. Before that, it was general pictures. Now it's morning pictures. You go because we go almost every morning to the these birds will appear in birds part as well. You see lots of birds like this. They fly very nicely. It's like seagulls, but they're not seagulls. So every morning we see policemen. I think you saw that policeman in my previous part about this, but now it's morning in the beach. So what we do a little bit of gymnastics and then also do swimming. And we sometimes talk to policemen because they're headquarters, the big police campus there. They get out in the morning. Also, we see football players almost every morning. They're training at that beach. We go a little bit further but there are no people. But this is a more civilized part. Next to hotels and police quarters. There are police quarters here, and hotel is there. This was big Mansour hotel. Football teams, and then we talk to them, and then they invite us to football games. That's why we went to that football games, because people from the beach, and they trained for Somaliland Champions League. They invited us. So that's typical swimming by Somali women. They take full clothes and go to the shore. Now we go to busy times, and it's the same beach, but now it's completely crowded because Thursday evening. So when Hargeisa, Burho, lots of mini buses, they come to Berbera Beach. This are signs of good life of young people, mostly young people. They come and they talk, walk, and chat, and do lots of selfies everywhere, like all modern people, young people. So it's a nice, friendly atmosphere. Okay, no alcohol for obvious reasons. Obvious reason is that there is no alcohol. But okay, we don't like going there because it's a little bit dirty and a little bit too crowded. But a few times we were there on Thursday evenings. It looks like that. There is not much swimming going on, but lots of walking around water. If they swim, it's quite often they go to most people that don't go, but they like coming to the beach. So Hargeisa, Burka, approximately the same distance, approximately 2.5 hours driving. They come Thursday afternoon and stay, I guess, until Friday afternoon. Because Saturday is already working day, and Sunday as well. That's a police police with a machine gun, and they're looking after people and asking for water. This is me with some Somali girl when there was a Somali recognition day, Israel. It was a big celebration, and I put my Somali T-shirt, and I had in the beach. To tell the truth, I had big success because I'm usually people try to talk to me because beach is a social place, especially in that day. Everybody wanted to talk to me, especially girls, and wanted to make photos with me. Okay, I make photos with them like this. So that's girls I already showed, but it's different photos. They're from Kharkiv students. There are lots of girls like that. These young women, they come and they make for self photos, and they just sunsets. Sunsets are nice in many places, and sunsets are very nice here as well. People come here for sunsets. Sunsets can be looking like this, for example, or like this. Okay. Beautiful, not beautiful, lots of beautiful sunsets in different places, but this one is also beautiful. Sun sometimes looks like this. It's not very nice photo, but sun is very strange, and different shapes and different colors, whatever. Okay, that's Berbera Beach, which is our favorite place. One of the reasons why we are here, and we plan to stay here for much longer than several months. Okay, this is the same birds. This is not in the beach. This is in some wall. That's on the beach. That's actually next to a restaurant. They're eating something. Next to that restaurant I showed in the previous part. Same birds, different bird. That's crab. That's same crab, but zoomed in. Or when I get closer to the crab, that's when I get even closer to the crab. The crab is not big, but looks very nice and looks very friendly. And that's birds in that hotel, which I mentioned, which is Mansour Hotel on the beach. There are always some animals inside and some birds. That was a picture I took when they were eating out, and these black birds, they were taking food after the breakfast or something. This is quite nice picture, birds, animals mixed up. This is a snake. This is a snake eating fish. So these snakes are very venomous, very poisonous, but they don't attack people. So when I swam, I saw snakes, but they don't attack people. So this is a dolphin, very, very close to the beach, very close. It's not very good quality photo, but you can see it's very close. It's I don't know, the depth is about 1 meter here in this particular picture. So more common is like this. The first dolphin which was jumping is a rare thing here. Mostly they just pass. These ones are reasonably close to the shore. This is much closer than our normal swimming range. This is less than 2 meters, much less than 2 meters. The depths where they swim, they don't jump. They swim rather slowly. And we had near collision with when we didn't see them coming, and we were swimming even further away, and they were coming very close, and we just made a narrow escape from collision with a group of dolphins. That scared my wife so much that she doesn't go there anymore. So she doesn't go to 2 meters depths. But usually we were swimming in 2 meters. This is about 2 meters, maybe slightly less depths. Usually they pass us further away, but suddenly for several days, they started to pass there. So this is my life. This is my risk in Berbera. So I'm risking my life navigating between dolphins and snakes. That's so far the biggest danger. But as you say, those who don't risk, they don't drink champagne. Okay, I cannot drink champagne because there's no alcohol here. But if I ever come back from here, then I will drink champagne for taking so much risk. Anyway, that's the end of part 3, which was rather short. Of course, I can extend it as much as you want, if that is interesting topic for discussion, because it's always dolphins and sea animals and stuff like that. I would be happy to do some more programs, but only if there will be interest. I will see that there is interest if I at least get 10,000 views and some decent comments, and I can do more programs about Somaliland. So possible topics of programs is, because I've been to Hargeisa, I stayed there for a week or so, maybe more. I go there next week for a couple of days for some reasons. I stayed in Burko for a couple of weeks, so I can compare life in 3 different cities. There are 3 main cities. Hargeisa, of course, the main one. If that of interest, and now our other topic, but this I will need more interest in because it's more effort. Live discussions with some Somalilanders, and I can record some live discussions with them and what do they think about Western world, about Russia, about life, but I need your questions which you want to ask them. I can ask them. Some of them speak very good English. Some of people I know, some of them, at least one, I know 2, speak very good Russian actually, because Russians were here and they had some connections with Russians. So then, but I need topics if you want me to do that. Because I've been to different places. Okay, I've been at least several. Okay, so which countries I've been? Hello, Russia, obviously. I spent some time in Ukraine. I told you my father Ukrainian. I had relatives somewhere there, and Ukraine is not that different from Russia in that sense, in the sense of culture and things. I spent more than 30 years in Britain. I spent several years in France, and I spent months and months in some other countries. So I can compare some aspects of life, at least in 3 different countries: Russia, UK, and Somaliland. Some other topics. Are welcome if you want me to do that, but of course I will do that only if there is interest. Thank you very much. Stay with me for these 3 parts. But there should be references to the other parts in the comments somewhere. Thank you very much, and see you probably next time.